When I say the term ghost ship, it conjures up images of barnacle-encrusted apparitions rising up from the sea, like the Flying Dutchman. There was a very accomplished sailor who was called the Flying Dutchman, until one night he was in a treacherous storm and trying to round a gulf when the sea claimed him. And the term ghost ship really just means any floating ship found with no crew alive. Well, there's a lot of reasons that a crew might abandon ship. So a ghost ship does not a cursed ship make. In 1761, the captain of the Octavius had been experiencing warm weather and smooth sailing, so he thought to himself, I want to make it home faster. So let's take the Northwest Passage, even though nobody, especially not him, but nobody had ever sailed it before. Now this was a 3-masted schooner with 28 souls on board. It would be 13 years before the Octavius would be found. And when the salvage crew boarded the ship, they found all 28 souls perfectly preserved, as if in live action, frozen. The captain sat at the desk with his logbook open, pen in hand, his wife and child huddled next to him on the floor. The salvage crew, believing the ship to be cursed, grabbed the logbook and fled. But the logbook had been frozen together, so it could not be read. And the Octavius and its crew would forever keep its secrets, because dead men tell no tales. Legendary. In 1750, the Seabird was found. The only souls on board were that of one cat and one dog. Breakfast had been served. Water was boiling in the teapot on the stove. All its cargo remained in the hold. There were no signs of violence, illness, or pirates. And the crew was never seen again. So that happened. In 1860, the Amazon was built. And no, they're not the reason that your packages are late. So after a series of unfortunate events, the Amazon got the reputation of being a cursed ship. She eventually ran aground and was abandoned until she was claimed and restored and renamed the Mary Celeste. So the Mary Celeste set sail for Europe, and about a month later she was found drifting aimlessly. No souls on board. She was found damaged, and some of her sails had been ripped and torn, but she stayed afloat. Some things were missing, other than the crew, the lifeboat, and her compass. But the mystery was, why did they abandon her? Everything that had gone wrong, everything, all the damage, it could have been repaired. Everything could have been repaired then and there on the boat. Why did they leave? Even the captain's log had no mention of any issues. So what happened to the Mary Celeste? Mary Celeste. Mary. So the salvagers that were towing her, they reported a strange mist that seemed to engulf only the Marie Celeste. And once they docked, everyone refused to board her. So many theories popped up. Was she attacked? Perhaps looted for slaves? Was it a colossal squid? Now, giant squids and colossal squids are rarely found in the more shallow waters that she was sailing in, but could you imagine tentacles coming up from the deep in the dark, searching around the entire ship for any warm, fleshy squish to just gobble down? Some say that the captain had gone psychotic and murdered the entire crew before committing suicide. But he had never been known to be an irrational or violent person. Where would these ideas come from? So she sat in the New York harbor for quite some time because, nobody would sail her, being cursed and all. I mean, I wouldn't have either. Until it was. And then the third captain, was the third to die an untimely death aboard the Marie Celeste. They tried to set her on fire. You know, just burn the mother down. But she wouldn't burn. So she was set to sea, a ghost ship, until she met her watery grave. I'm not sure, but I think that, like, recently, like 95 years later, some divers actually found her. So that's kind of cool. And then in 1873, there was a ship called the Sabrina. I just love a Z name. They're so uncommon. Now, the Sabrina was said to be, she was a trading ship, and she was said to be really just reliable and true. She was a really good ship. September 15th, 1917, she took her little cargo of coal and went on a mission. She set a sail. Soon after, she would be found run aground. Again, no crew on board, but the cargo was still in the hold, and nobody knew what had happened. Perhaps she was attacked by a U-boat, but there was no damage to the boat. Where did they go? They were never seen again. She had been at sea for 2 days. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Titanic. If you didn't learn about it in school, then you probably saw the movie. I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go. There's actually a grave from one of the victims of the Titanic. That's Jay Dawson. But still, Jack Dawson was a completely fictional character, and this person was really on the Titanic the night that it sunk and took to the sea over 1,500 souls, all by grievous human error. But did you know she had 2 sister ships, the RMS Olympic and the Britannic, both built, well, all 3 built for size and luxury. In 1920, the Olympic set sail. 3 months later, she was involved in a collision that left a huge hole in her side and cost the Star Line over $250,000 to repair. And when the Titanic sank, her captain refused to approach, stating that he might incite fear and panic to the passengers aboard the sinking ship when a mirror image of their ship approached. The Britannic struck a mine and sunk in under an hour. 30 souls were lost that day. Now, you could say that perhaps the Star Line was cursed, or maybe this was just a series of tragic events. But there was a nurse, a woman named Violet Jessup, who was aboard all 3 ships during all 3 tragedies. Cursed ship or cursed soul? You tell me. I actually took a cruise once to the Bahamas. It was a 2-week cruise. It was so fun. Oh my gosh, I highly recommend it. There was this one night where we went to dinner, and it was this big grand, like, black tie affair, and I'm wearing this gown, and we're sitting down, and they served me this escargot. Have you ever tried escargot? Yeah. It tasted like a snail. It was salty and slimy and gross, and I spit it into my napkin. My mother's husband was appalled, but it just wasn't for me. I mean, if you like escargot, good for you, but never again. But I had a great time. The clubs and the shows and the banana boats and the jet skis. It was so amazing. But little did I know that my boyfriend back home, yeah, that entire 2 weeks he was making out with his ex. And then I get home and they're both all, oh, we missed you so much. It's so good to see you. Until my best friend, one of my best friends, she comes up to me. She's like, girl, thanks, bitch. You're a real one. So during World War II, they really kind of started this assembly line kind of construction for ships. And they had like a 6-week build time. There was this one ship where they were building it, and the welders somehow got trapped inside, and they were screaming and banging on the walls just trying to get help. But before anybody could rescue them, they all suffocated. Now, despite facing many malfunctions, including the engines, radio transmission, the wiring, like the lights would flicker on and off. She actually survived several attacks. Until one day, when one crew member shot another crew member and then killed himself in a murder-suicide. Now, this will go down in history and be reported as that the crew member that was shot, who happened to be a woman, was shot by enemy fire. That wasn't the truth. That wasn't what really happened. Now, crew members, they all reported regularly seeing apparitions. Now, after the war, she would be sold and renamed the SS Alkmaar, a merchant ship. But many sailors refused to serve upon her because she had been cursed. So after a storm that had run her aground, she was being towed in for repairs when she suddenly burst into flame. And the sea applauded as she broke her tow line. She would eventually sit abandoned with a single lone caretaker who was said to have gone completely mad aboard her. I mean, he was just babysitting her, basically. And eventually she broke her anchor, sailed into some rocks, and again burst into flame. There were several attempts to salvage her, all which resulted in random fires. This bitch was hot. And eventually crews refused to even try to salvage her. Like, you know what I'm saying? If she gonna burn, she's gonna burn. Let her. Then there were orders to go measure her specs, right? And so 3 planes set out with people aboard the planes to go follow out these orders and just take her measurements. But all 3 planes went down, and all the people died before they could even reach her. So she's just sitting there chilling at the bottom of the ocean, right? Doing her thing, being cool, being left alone. When an experienced diver found her and dove down to her, and he went missing. His skull was found in the engine room. Only his skull. This is how legends are made. In 1940, the Orang Medan exploded after its entire crew died of a mysterious illness. It was said that 1,500 crates of unknown origin were aboard. A passing ship had received a message saying, "We float. We all die. I die." So the Silver Star set out to investigate. Do you know what they found when they got there? The entire crew, teeth bared with upturned faces as if in fear. Even the dog was paralyzed in a growl. Yet there were no signs of attack or physical injury. So they were attempting to tow her in when one of the crew members spotted smoke coming from her. And before they could even attach the tow line, she exploded. Now, this was shortly after the war when many of the records weren't kept. And it was also said that she may have been a smuggling ship, so she may have not had any official records. Or perhaps the Orang is just legend. On October 5th, 1955, the MV Joyita set sail on a 2-day trip with the doctor and medical supplies on board. From October 6th through October 12th, over 100,000 square miles of the ocean was searched looking for her. On November 10th, she would eventually be found 600 miles off course, floating adrift aimlessly. She had been damaged, but she was still buoyant. Why they abandoned ship, we don't know. Her radio was found tuned to the distress channel, but yet no call had ever been received. Her dinghy and the life rafts were gone, suggesting that the crew did abandon ship. Mattresses had covered the starboard engine, and the starter motor was gone. All the clocks had stopped at 10:25. Only the good doctor's bag was recovered. She would later be auctioned off, only to run aground in 1957. And then she was repaired and ran aground again in November of 1959. She was eventually abandoned and beached because, you know, nobody wants to sail on a cursed ship. Now, it wasn't until 2012 that the original people that had gone missing on that 2-day trip were finally declared dead. We still don't know what happened to them. So thanks for joining me today, and make sure you drop by next Wednesday and every Wednesday when we will talk about something else that I find interesting from history. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Love you. Bye.